Hello, I'm Laura. Welcome to my kitchen. This new series of baking from my new book, Red Velvet. And the idea from this came because the heroine in Red Velvet is a baker, and she bakes things throughout the books, and they're all things that I baked in my career as a baker and pastry chef. And I haven't been feeling very good these last couple of months. I've had a lot of anxiety and some downtime, and I'm trying to find activities that are fun, that kind of lift me back up. And one of the ones that came to mind was to bake the things from the book and invite you guys to bake them too. So the very first thing that Sarah, the heroine, bakes in the book is what's called cinnamon morning biscuits. And this is actually a recipe that came from a bakery that I used to work at in Portland, or was adapted from that. And it's called cinnamon rolls. That's what it was called in this bakery that I worked at. But they're not traditional cinnamon rolls, and customers would often be confused and sometimes upset when they got something that they weren't expecting. And so when I started baking them on my own, I changed the name of them because I think that they're definitely more of a biscuit. And for me personally, this is the perfect thing for morning, because I don't know about you, getting up first thing in the morning and making some kind of yeasted dough. Even as a morning person, that's never what I want to do, right? I don't want to be proofing dough first thing in the morning for breakfast. And so this is the perfect thing for breakfast. So I'm going to throw these together. The recipe is going to be linked somewhere. You guys make these and let me know. We made a batch yesterday, and I converted the recipe from weight, like in grams, which is what we use in bakery, to cups and teaspoons so that everybody can bake them at home. Of course, the weights will still be included if you want to do weights, but I'm hoping people will try it out. I forgot one thing. As cups and teaspoons, and let me know how it comes out. Because while I've baked this a million times in various bakeries and kitchens throughout my time, things happen differently at home. So it'd be important for people to try them out. 3, 4.
I had trouble stop eating.
Yes, we made a batch, and
I was like, I'm gonna take one bite.
It's hard not to eat them. So I'm sifting the leavening, which you don't necessarily have to do. This is another bakery thing. So 1 teaspoon, because leavening is always in clumps, and so if you just put it through the sifter, then you don't have to worry about there being a chunk of baking soda or something. So now whisk the dry together. That is flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt whisked together. So the way that this biscuit recipe works is we're gonna do oil, and I got just regular old vegetable oil, 1/3 of a cup. And then I'm going to kind of drizzle it in there. This will be in the instructions, and toss it in a little bit. It becomes messy very quickly. But in the same way that you would kind of cut in butter or whatever fat, lard, or whatever you're using for pie crust, that's kind of the idea with what we're doing with the flour and the oil in this recipe, which, not going to lie, I have never cut oil into anything, into any other recipe. This is a very unusual recipe, which, I'm sure this was someone's grandma's recipe at some point, and that this was a throwback left over from, Depression times when there wasn't butter, although you'll notice later that we're going to slather a truly inappropriate amount of butter into the middle of this roll, so I don't honestly know if that matters. Okay, buttermilk is the next thing that goes in. I got this because that's all I had. So you'll have to just pay attention to the moisture level of this, because it was buttermilk by weight, and we were using a specific kind of buttermilk in the bakery, and all buttermilks are going to weigh the same. This one's a high fat one, and so it probably weighs more than regular buttermilk. So anyway, there's going to be a little bit of finagling. 3/4 of a cup. Put the lids back on these so that there's no tragedies. And then we're going to toss this together a little bit.
Have you preheated the oven?
I have not. Good call. my sous chef Chips behind the camera and also helping me remember the important things. Like I said, it's very messy. Clean yourself off as you go. And then this, see, I can definitely see that my buttermilk with a little bit more though. And it just kind of turns into a little bit of a shaggy mess that we are going to turn out onto the counter as a mess. And all of you bakers will recognize this step as a biscuit step. Cleaning myself off. And I'm going to keep adding a little bit just of flour to like spots that are actually wet. And then gathering this up. There's an instruction in the original recipe that calls to fold and knead this dough exactly 12 times. The woman who I worked for when we would bake this was definitely particular like that, but I am definitely not, and I don't think it matters. But so you just kind of gather it together. It will gather together, and then we are going to fold and bring this together. Yeah, I saw that. Until kind of getting to be a dough here. You kind of see how that goes. And bringing the under part together. But I mean, it's not bread, so we're not trying to strengthen and develop the gluten. But we do want it to be smooth and cohesive kind of dough. And if you're using a gluten-free flour, which would probably work just fine, this is going to act differently. If you want to use dairy-free, like buttermilk, or dairy-free milk, I'm sure it would work just fine. If you don't have buttermilk, just add some lemon juice or vinegar or whatever to whatever kind of milk you have. It's totally fine. If you're going to use dairy-free, I would definitely use something high fat that has like oil added to it, like Oatly or one of those other like thick smooth milks, just for the richness of it. So I have this nice little dough, and I have my bowl and my soft butter. So we're gonna do the sugar mixture in here so it's ready to go. And this is still a little bit dirty, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because we are gonna mix it all together anyway. Rinse out my cup. So where's my recipe? We're doing 1/2 cup of white sugar, which is this one. And 1/4 cup of brown sugar, which is actually something that I added to the recipe. This recipe originally was all white sugar, but if I can ever sneak some brown sugar into a recipe, I absolutely will. 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, which all you bakers might recognize that 3 teaspoons is actually a tablespoon, but my tablespoon doesn't fit into this jar, so we're going with 3 teaspoons instead, because the teaspoon fits in there just fine. Okay, again, whisk. Into a lovely cinnamon sugar mixture. And I'm kind of feeling like I wish my butter was a little bit softer, so I'm going to nougat it for just like 2 seconds. One more. Alright. Good. That and that. And so the recipe calls for rolling this out to 8 by 12, which is approximate, but you're gonna get, you want 6 good sized rolls. So try and get to 12 in one direction pretty quickly. Any wet spots like that are just going to stick to the rolling pin, so we can just... And again, this is not a yeasted dough, so it's not, trying to snap back into place like a yeasted dough would. It rolls out much nicer and more like sugar cookie dough. butter. So I'm gonna try and bring some of that thickness over. Stuff piled everywhere. And I'm feeling pretty good about that situation right there. I'm gonna bring it to face me here. There. Okay. So, you know, you can get out your ruler if you want, but and butter knife, 1 stick of butter, nice and soft. And we're going to, yes. And I have one of those tiny little offset spatulas that's actually meant for this project, but I forgot to go digging for it before I started, so this is where we're at. Again, if you were doing a dairy-free version of this and wanted to use like Earth Balance, it's not in there. But Earth Balance would work just fine, or margarine, yes, I mean, it's really the same thing. Would work just fine. And actually, if I was using Oatly and Earth Balance, Chip would be very excited.
Yeah,
that would mean that would mean he could eat the whole pan. So maybe it's actually better that we're not using that. I'm making it with the standard ingredients just because I want to watch it work perfectly so that I can know that it's all set up for you guys. Ready to go. But if you make any substitutions, that's great. Please tell me how it works out because I would love to know. So we've got our cinnamon sugar. We're going to put that on there. Spread it out. It is going to fall off the sides a little bit, but we'll just like kind of scoop it back up as we go. And then I should have my knife ready. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to scoop it up and I'm going to try and roll this as tightly as I can without breaking the dough. So I'm tucking under, rolling, and tuck and roll. You can see some of it's falling out, but we'll scoop that onto the top. It's okay. And get a nice little log. Look at that beauty. So we'll go straight down the middle, and then we'll cut this into thirds. And then just a regular old cake pan. A cake pan works fine if you have a pie tin. The baker I worked for was always very particular about this being baked in a metal pan. That being said, if all you have is a glass square dish, I'm sure it would work just fine. I haven't ever tried it, but you know, bakers are very particular about their things, but what I've found is that a lot of it is just fine either way. Get up our little sprinklings, put all that over the top, and that will melt into deliciousness on the inside. And that is how that ends up looking. And 325 oven, the recipe says 15 minutes. And that was from a commercial convection oven. So when I baked these last night, I baked it for 15 minutes and then I added 5 minutes and then I added 3 minutes. So really it's going to be just, we'll see when they're done, based on how they look rather than what time it is. I will see you in 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes at 325. And I can see already, these definitely gonna need more time. It's kind of like white all over. I don't want them to be white all over. So I am actually gonna give those 5 more minutes. Okay, 5 more minutes passed for a total of 18 minutes so far. And what I'm seeing is still more white than I wanna see. Honestly, they're probably baked at this point, but we don't want it to be that white. So, I'm going for 5 more minutes. Okay, 5 more minutes. So we're at a total of 28 minutes. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm liking to see. Now kind of the golden goes a little bit further down. I can tell this one in the middle isn't going to be raw in the middle. I'm just going to give them just a couple more minutes. Okay. Okay. Okay, starting to get, we like around here, nice and dark, and I'm sure you've noticed that they're kind of boiling in butter, which, you know, kind of frying them. It's meant to be like that. As they cool, all of that butter is going to absorb back into the dough and make them extra delicious. those beauties, they kind of pop out. I just kind of give them a little encouragement with the butter knife. And then they just pop right out. Oh man. We're gonna eat all of these. Oh man, when I was a baker, this is my favorite part. I'd break those off and eat them. And that's why I can't eat sugar anymore. Man. Make these at home and everyone will love you. I'm sure they already do.